like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for another wrestling game review in our series. Today we're taking a look at the first Aki and THQ based N64 wrestling game, which of course was WCW vs NWO World Tour, which saw release in December of 1997 over in North America before a February 1998 release over here in the PAL region. It is the semi-sequel of sorts to WCW vs. the World, which was a PlayStation game which had been released only a couple of months prior over here in Europe in December of 1997 itself. So once the main menu comes around, you'll see you've got WCW vs NWO mode, Exhibition mode, League Challenge, Options, Tournament mode, and then also a League mode down the bottom. Heading into Options, you've got pretty much your standard stuff, changing the difficulty, checking the control pad configuration, adjusting the audio settings, having your spirit meter on and off, and turning realism on and off as well. Once you head into the character selection screen, you'll see you've got a variety of the most well-known wrestlers from in WCW at that point in time. The Giant, Sting, Ric Flair, Lex Luger, the Steiner Brothers, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. They are all here. There are also a selection of fake-named wrestlers from Japanese companies, and there are a few selectable characters who are hidden as unlockables, which do include DDP and the Macho Man Randy Savage. So like always, we're going to start with visuals first, and in my opinion, this was the best looking 3D wrestling game on the market when it came out. Now take into account, WWF games hadn't gone into 3D yet, Warzone didn't come out until a few months after this, and the only real noticeable game on the PlayStation that we'd seen at this point was WCW vs. the World, which obviously was 3D, but that was pretty much the precursor to this, and it was basically inferior to this game in every way. The character models look quite good, all the wrestlers are perfectly recognizable, their outfits actually look quite good as well. The faces aren't the best, some look pretty good, but others such as Ric Flair and Chris Benoit, they do look pretty bad. But I'm going to forgive the game because it was the first WCW wrestling game that came out on the N64, the first one that the Aki Corporation did as well, so I think they've actually done a really good job. The crowd, they don't look particularly impressive, but this was something that they improved as they did more and more games. In terms of the animations, yes, the quality animations are in this game. They were pretty much put into place in WCW vs. the World on the PlayStation. A lot of them were moved across for this game, and then they added more moves in, so all of the moves look absolutely spot on. Yes, you've still got those little bits of glitching when arms go through body parts and stuff, but again, I can forgive it because the moves look absolutely fantastic. So moving on to the sound effects and music next, and if you've played this game like I have, then you'll probably agree with me when I say this is the weakest aspect of the game. Of course, the major thing is the fact the wrestlers do not have their entrance themes anywhere in this game. Yes, there are no ring entrances, but the themes still could have been in the game, whether you're selecting your character or even after you win a match, but they're not, and it detracts from the atmosphere of a wrestling game. I think I said it when I reviewed the sequel, WCW NWO Revenge, quite a while back, and it applies here. It's a massive drawback. Now, in terms of the sound effects within the matches, they're not particularly good either, because none of the moves have this strong thud style feel to them. They all actually feel like they're slaps and tickles more than anything else, and the sound effects just are not very good. The referee doesn't sound particularly good either, and so the sound effects are really frustrating as well. Now, there is music playing in the matches, and actually some of it is okay, and it's not too bad to listen to, although some of the other tunes kind of feel out of place for a WCW wrestling game from that 1998 era when you had the NWO running wild. But of course, what I'll do is what I always do, is give you some examples of the music so you can make up your own mind. So moving on to the gameplay next, and it's a stark contrast to the sound effects because this is of course the best aspect of the game. If you're familiar with these N64 wrestling games by THQ and the Aki team, you will know that they all play fantastic. And even though WCW vs NWO World Tour was the first one in that series, it has all the core basic elements in place with the light grapple, strong grapple, light strikes, strong strikes, and the reversal system all being in place here. It plays very, very well. Yes, the games that followed added little bits in areas, but don't take anything away from World Tour because it is a fantastic playing wrestling game that's very, very satisfying. Yes, it's not a button masher. I pointed this out when I spoke about WrestleMania 2000 and WCW NWO Revenge. These aren't button mashing games. If you go into it like that, the chances are you'll probably lose. But learn the controls, learn how you can counter moves, and you will have tremendous success and a thorough amount of enjoyment when you play this game. So moving on to content and lifespan next, and you can have single matches, tag matches, battle royals and handicap matches, so there's not many match variety types to pick from. You've got just over 40 wrestlers, but unfortunately only half of them are from the WCW and NWO rosters. The other half are fictional characters based on Japanese wrestlers, so you probably wouldn't even know who these wrestlers were supposed to be when this game originally came out. Take into account lots of people didn't even have the internet at home in 1997, so you wouldn't even have been able to look up online who they were supposed to be. Now, in terms of the modes of play, the main mode of play is the League Challenge, where you select one of the 4 divisions and then select one of the title belts to go after, and then you simply go through a series of matches to become the champion. There are 4 unlockable wrestlers as well, but really the lifespan of this game is similar in its downsides to WCW NWO Revenge, because I felt with that game, because there were no storyline elements in any of the one-player modes, it got repetitive because it was just simply match after match after match. Then you get a well done screen and it's done, and you just do that over and over again. So it doesn't have the kind of excitement that an actual season has, something like WrestleMania 2000 or the varied storyline approach that No Mercy had later on. Those ones are much more appealing to play through, and they've got much better lifespan. In terms of the way it plays, it is satisfying to play, so that does give it replay value. You've got multiplayer options as well. You can have 4-player matches if you've got people to play with. Downside there being the game does suffer from slowdown in the 4-player matches. But overall, it's not bad, and there's a reasonable amount to do. It's just the fact that it probably does get a little bit repetitive. As always, that leaves us with our 2 final questions. Is WCW vs NWO World Tour still worth playing today, and where does it feature in our wrestling game top 10? Now, if WCW NWO Revenge was never released, this game would still be worth playing because it would still be the very best WCW wrestling game that was ever released. But because Revenge did come out, and it basically fine-tuned this game in every single way, there isn't really any point going back in playing this game, not unless you just want to see how the whole entire Aki games began on the N64. Then it's worth taking a look in that regard. Now, where does it feature in our wrestling game top 10? It's actually coming in very high because it is still a very good playing wrestling game. It's coming in at number 4, and it is better than all of those games beneath it. Of course, it's not quite as good as Revenge, which is in 3rd place. SmackDown, whilst might not being as well a playing game as this, it has a much more complete experience. And then of course we've got WrestleMania 2000 out in front currently. But of course these are just my thoughts and my thoughts alone. If yours differ, if you think I've been too harsh on it or too kind perhaps, let me know with a comment down below. And like always, I'll be back in the near future with another wrestling game review. Goodbye for now.
3 count fall.